What's up guys, Jay Burton here, and today I'm bringing you my Survival Hunter PvP guide for 6.2.3, and this is part 1, which will include talents, glyphs, stats, and macros, which the macros will be in the description below. Alright, so starting off. Now in talents, for the top tier, I either go post haste or narrow escape. The only time I will take narrow escape is if I'm versing a double melee, like so warrior DK, and they're both on me. Then yeah, I'll go narrow escape. But most of the time I do take post haste, removing all, slows, whatever on you, and you gain a movement speed increase. Pretty awesome. Okay, next here. Binding shot is pretty much all I ever use. It's a 5-second AoE stun, and it goes well with your explosive trap when you have the glyph for the knockback. You could go Wyvern Sting, but it DRs with your ice trap, or your freezing trap. So it's more so better if you want a multi-target CC. But I usually take Binding Shot. The 45 tier, I mostly go Ironhawk. A solid 10% damage reduction isn't bad, but Spirit Bond is nice if you're gonna have those long games. Like if you're versing a dot comp, the longer the game, the more you benefit from Spirit Bond, and your healer will thank you. So usually I go Ironhawk though. In level 60 tier, technically these two are viable, but I would not recommend using Dire Beast. I would just use Thrill the Hunt. 6% chance per 10 focus you spend has a chance to give you charges for Arcane Shot. Arcane Shot's what we really want to spam, so this helps with that. Now, Steady Focus is not viable at all because it's too hard to maintain both stacks after using 2 Cobra shots. Thrill the Hunt, in my opinion, is the way to go. Now the next tier, a Murder Crows is a must. The reason why, it's a 1-minute cooldown and a heavy damage. Blink Strikes I only use if I'm Beast Mastery. And Stampede, it's not worth it ever since it got nerfed for PvP to do 25% damage, and it's a 5-minute cooldown. So, a Murder of Crows. In the 90 tier, I prefer to go Glaive Toss every time. 15-second cooldown and costs 15 focus. And it's kind of an AoE, in its path. Whoever it hits, it slows. And it's decent damage. Really good ability. The only time I ever use Power Shot is if I'm Marks, because coming out of stealth with a Power Shot and a Chimera Shot is one of the strongest openers I've ever seen in this game. But nobody ever plays Marks. Not in WoD really. In WoD, Marks is pretty bad compared to the other two. A Barrage, this one's also not bad. It does some decent damage and it's AoE. The downside is it will break CC. So I really just prefer Glaive Toss. In the last tier, this is pretty much mandatory. Exotic munitions. You want that frozen armor, or ammo, frozen ammo. Having a slow applied without having to use concussive shot is so helpful. And also, if you're versing a comp where you don't really need slows, like you're versing some with like a Warlock and another type of DPS similar, then poisoned ammo can be beneficial. As survival, you benefit a lot from poison damage. But I would say most of the time frozen ammo, and it's amazing. The reason why you don't go Lone Wolf is because we need Roar of Sacrifice. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Actually, I'll talk about it now. Pet talent tree. Cunning. This is what you have to use. You must use this. The reason why is Roar of Sacrifice. A 1-minute cooldown that lets you cast this on you or your teammates and makes them uncrittable. They cannot be crit for 12 seconds. When a pally pops his wings or a druid goes incarnation, boom. It doesn't matter. Whoever they're on, they're going to take hardly any damage. Roar of Sacrifice is a must. Really good ability. Okay, so that's it for talents for you and your pet. Let's move on to glyphs. Glyph of Solace is mandatory. You have to have this. A big thing about hunters is their freezing trap is what makes them pretty effective. They need that CC. If there's dots on them, you can't CC them. You need this glyph. Glyph of Explosive Trap, I pretty much say is mandatory too, because when a melee gets on you, you can use this to knock them away. This is especially great when they use a gap closer, Like a warrior charges, boom, knock him away. DK death grips you, boom, knock him away. And you still have your deterrence off cooldown. Not deterrence, sorry, disengage. You still have disengage ready. Great glyph. Oh, also, you can knock people off the bridge on one map, or in Dollar and Sewers, knock them to lower level. It's so useful in many ways. Now, I also like to use Glyph of Snake Trap. It's like the talent Frost Trap, except it's not stationary. Whereas the Frost stays where it's at, your snakes will move to enemies to use this, to apply the slow. But this glyph I would not say is mandatory, but I just like to use it. Some other glyphs you could use: Animal Bond makes you take 10% more healing as long as your pet's out. Camouflage, if you're in a stealth comp. What the hell was that? Oh, my snakes died. Sorry. But yeah, if you're in a stealth comp, use Camouflage. That way you can give your team the proper opener without you being seen in camouflage. And if you're bored, or you're versing a Demo Lock and Destro, where you can spell reflect, Chaos Bolts, and Demon Bolt, you could do that, but I don't recommend it. And then the last one that's worth mentioning is Glyph of Tranquilizing Shot. Some comps will be where you need dispels, and your other DPS teammate doesn't have any dispels. Like Kung Fu Cleave, for example. The warrior can't get rid of any dispels, or any bubbles, or buffs, or whatever. So that's where you come in. But it has 40 focus cost, so it's hard to just spam. But it's better than nothing. And then there's one minor glyph. Revive Pet. If your pet dies in arenas, which will happen, you want to be able to get it out as soon as possible. This will prevent you from getting those 2 knockbacks, or those 2 pushbacks. So it's really helpful. And that's it for glyphs. Now, when it comes to stats, you just want to focus on mastery. Enchant everything for mastery. We do some pretty good magical damage, and this mastery really helps a lot. In your second stat, you want versatility. Now, with that said, as a hunter, we don't use our 4-piece. It's not worth it. Just go for your 2-piece, so that way you'll get 50 focus every time you freeze somebody. That's a nice little burst. And because we're only using 2 set pieces, that means the other pieces we get to focus on mastery stats. So whereas, some classes need their 4 set piece, that means they don't get to focus on the stat that helps them the most. They have to pick the set piece and take whatever stats that come on it. So that's a benefit to only using your 2-piece. And when it comes to macros, I'll include them all in the description. But you want one to make your Roar Sacrifice cast on you or your other teammates. Make it where your Master's Call is cast on you or your teammates. Have a Tranquilizing Shot cast on each of the enemy, like target Arena 1, target Arena 2, Arena 3. Same with your Interrupt. Arena 1, Arena 2, Arena 3. And I think that's all at the moment that I can think of that I personally use. If I think of more, I will include them in the description. Alright guys, well that pretty much concludes my Survival Hunter Guide, Part 1 for 6.2.3. If you did enjoy the guide, please comment, like, or subscribe. It'll help me out a bunch. Alright guys, take care.